who is in for the Quakes, who's out for the Quakes, and then as we do with all the other teams, we'll review the DPs, some potential youngsters that can break out, and then we'll look at who is going to be the team MVP and some projection lineups.
Absolutely. We'll also do some predictions on how we think the team will end up towards the end of the segment for San Jose. One quick note for San Jose, Mike Kleeman, this is for you. Shout out for sending us that good information. Look back on YouTube for our Facebook Live, Twitter Live, YouTube Live event. I addressed some of the things that Mike Kleeman sent to us. He's kind of got an inside track there with the Earthquakes. As well, he purchased some swag through Redbubble. So moving your team right up to the top of the list there, San Jose Earthquakes. Some of the players in, we've got defender Casey Walls, a homegrown player, goalkeeper Emmanuel Ochoa, another homegrown, and as well a defender Tanner Beeson, the pick in the super draft. So not a lot of movement in. You might consider Christian Espinoza, their designated player, a player in because he was signed permanently. With that, I believe it was $2.5 million transfer fee, the biggest transfer for San Jose. But some of the players out: defender Francois Affolter, Jimmy Ockford, Kevin Partida, all had their options declined, as well as Harold Cummings is out of contract, and Animal Godoy was traded to Nashville. So not a ton of movement for San Jose this offseason, kind of sticking with what they've got. Matias Almeida is back for another season at the helm of the Earthquakes. Nick, what are your thoughts here? I mean, you've got a team that I would say they excelled against expectations last season. They did better than most people thought. Almeida's system was working there, kind of got better and better as the season went on. What do you think as far as this team that they have? Do you think they can add some more? Do you think is this kind of steady what we're going to see? What are your thoughts on San Jose and their player movement?
Sure. Two things jump out based on the players that we listed. Of the players in, 2 defenders and a goalkeeper. Of the players out, 4 defenders and a midfielder. So they're really rotating their back line. They feel comfortable and confident in their central midfield or their midfielder players who can do the man-to-man marking that Almeida's system requires. So now it's just a matter of making sure your back line is solid enough. And if it's going well, I can see San Jose maybe flashing some cash and bringing in a couple of defenders either over the next few weeks before the season starts or at least in that summer transfer window. I know it's crazy. I know I said San Jose could flash some cash and bring in some defenders, but we saw what Ike Opara did for Minnesota last season. We saw the Chad Marshall effect after he left Seattle. We know how good Kansas City has been strictly because of their defense. So while this is a goal-scoring league, you got to have a solid center back. You got to have some sort of defense in order so you're not bleeding goals and you're not in shootouts every game. So that being said, it's possible that San Jose makes a move for a free agent defender or an international defender based on how they're doing. And we saw they spent the money for Christian Espinoza. They spent the money for Matias Almeida, and things are going well. And from what Mike Kleeman, our loyal listener and San Jose season ticket holder, has said, it's possible that ownership finally opens up a little bit of the wallet because you got to compete with LAFC, you got to compete with the Galaxy, and now you got Sacramento coming into the league too, that you're competing for fan base as much as you are points and goals. So I'm anxious to see how San Jose kind of shores up their back line, but I'm sure they're going to rely a lot on their midfielders to do a lot of that marking and tracking back.
Yeah, and speaking of center backs and defenders, so one of the things that Mike Kleeman had mentioned in his email to us was that looks like they were going to hopefully sign. Almeida was hoping they would get a signing done by the weekend of a center back. And now there's some serious news going on here as far as reports about Osvaldo Alanis, the center back from Chivas, would possibly be reuniting with Almeida at San Jose. So that could happen. It might not happen. I'm not 100% sure. But those are the rumors and reports coming out right now. So I'm guessing just by the way that things have been going with these team previews that we're going to record this now and it's a report. And by the time this gets released, it's going to happen.
Yeah, you're gonna have to put some sort of disclaimer or something in the comments when you upload it to YouTube that this defender or whoever it was got signed from Chivas right after we said it was only a possibility. So, exactly. But it sounds like one of the more realistic MLS rumors that we've been hearing over the last couple of months or so, especially again the influx of players from Liga MX to the MLS, especially a connection between a Chivas player and Matias Almeida going out to California. Makes perfect sense to me. Wouldn't surprise me if San Jose gets it done shortly. So with that, the players in, the players out, a little bit of a discussion on what to expect. Mike, who are the 3 DPs on the roster?
All right, so there's actually not 3 DPs for San Jose. They only have 2. So that means they have 1 open slot. But the first is Christian Espinoza.
An open DP spot, you say, as we finish a conversation about an international defender. Imagine how I queued that up. That's interesting. See, my transitions aren't terrible.
They're getting better, Nick. They're getting better. Christian Espinoza, 24 years old. We spoke about him earlier. Club record transfer fee. The guy came from Villarreal in La Liga, so he has some definite skill there. Played for the Argentinian youth teams in the Olympics and the Under-20 World Cup. Last season, he had 2 goals and 13 assists, so kind of more of a creator than a scorer, although it looks like he can get some goals as well. Solid season for him. Now he's a permanent player. He's not on loan. He has been signed permanently by San Jose. 24 years old, he's only going to get better. I think this is going to be a solid DP spot for him, kind of being that creator, that number 10, distributing to the forwards. So that's number 1. Number 2 is Vako, the 26-year-old Georgian international. 8 goals and 5 assists last season. Played for Vitesse in the Eredivisie, and then went to Legia Warsaw on loan before joining San Jose. This guy, I think he really needs a breakout season, in my opinion. I think he is kind of sitting on the kind of like more of a winger type, forward winger hybrid. And 8 goals and 5 assists in a season isn't going to cut it for a DP in that type of position. So I think he really needs to break out in order to stick around with San Jose. As far as that third spot, it's still open. I'm not sure if Alanis would be considered a designated player, if he would be a TAM player, or how that would break down. If he did come in as a DP, I could see that happening. As far as if it was TAM, it would leave that spot open still for something to happen possibly in the summer, but I don't see them going crazy before the season if it's not Alanis.
Yeah, so looking at those 2 guys, I agree with you there, Mike. An MLS club is pushed forward by their DPs. I mean, every club in every sport really wants kind of their lower profile guys to step up and their lesser paid guys to step up so they can get the value. But in the MLS, you need your DPs to be your best players week in and week out in training camp, on game day, and in every aspect of your club. So Christian Espinoza, club record fee. He's got to live up to that. Vako, DP money in the prime of his career, he's got to live up to that as well. There are a lot of youngsters on this squad, and there's a couple that we picked to kind of have a breakout year, but you've got a solid midfield with guys like Magnus Eriksson, guys like Shea Salinas, and especially guys like Jackson Ewell, the kind of budding USMNT midfielder who a lot of people are excited about. So you've got a solid core there. So you need your DPs to really step up, convert the goal-scoring opportunities they're going to get, create plays, and really propel this team forward. Now, speaking of those youngsters, Mike, we've noted Marcos Lopez and Sayed Haji as a couple guys who are going to break out. Marcos Lopez, 20-year-old defender. He's on a TAM deal, a Peruvian international, has played on the U20s. Seems like Peru could be that next big hotspot of South American talent. We just saw DC United sign Edson Flores, I think his name is.
Yeah.
So, and now we've got Marcos Lopez coming up with the San Jose senior team. So He's a guy to keep a lookout for, as well as Syed Haji, another 20-year-old midfielder, Generation Adidas type player, number 2 pick in the Super Draft, but also a great story. He was a Somalian refugee. Make sure you go check him out. Look up who he is. He could be a very household name in MLS within a couple years. Mike, you correctly note out in our kind of pre-show notes here that usually these Generation Adidas players really break out in their second season, and it looks like that's where Haji is right now. So what are your extra thoughts on these guys? Can they contribute to the first team, or are they just kind of there for depth and experience right now?
Yeah, I definitely think Marcos Lopez, the 20-year-old defender, can contribute could possibly be a starter. In my projected starting 11, which we'll get to in a minute, I do have him as that starting left back. He's a TAM signing. He's from Peru. It's hard to put a TAM signing as a breakout youngster, but the fact that the guy is only 20 years old, he's not really a household name outside of the circles of San Jose. So I'm sure the San Jose fans know him and know him well. But other fans probably don't know this guy by name yet. And I'm assuming that by the end of the season, there's a good chance they will know who he is. Syed Haji, definitely, Generation Adidas. The second year is kind of the year that it all starts for Generation Adidas guys. So with him, it looks like, that kind of his work ethic and what he was doing, last year and a few appearances that he got, I think that he might end up doing something special for San Jose and becoming a good depth piece this season.
Excellent. So based on all of that, who do you have for your projected starting 11?
Yeah, so with a 4-4-2, again, this could change. Went with their lineups from last season towards the end of last season. So it's 4-4-2. The goaltender will be Vega. In the defense, I've got Lopez, Youngworth, Kashia, and Lima. In the midfield, Vaco, Erickson, Espinoza, Uil, and then up front, Husin and Wondolowski. I think there's some competition there with Andy Rios in as the starter for a striker position, so that might happen. He could get up there. They seem to like to bring Husin off the bench last season. He does have some decent speed, so that could be one of the reasons why. Also, I know Jackson Uil in the starting 11. I think this is I wanted to put him as a breakout youngster, but unfortunately, I feel like he's already broken out since the attention he's been getting with the U.S. national team, so on and so forth. He's kind of a household name in MLS already. So this another inside tidbit of information is that apparently Jackson Uil back in last season during one of the games after the game, he kind of spoke out a little bit and got loud and was kind of pumped up and that usually doesn't happen from him. He's not really a loud, outspoken type of guy. And Almeida saw that and loved it and pulled him aside and was like, hey, keep that up. I like this. I want to see more of this. And so it really seems like Almeida really likes Jackson Uil for the talent that he has, the kid that he is, and expect to see a lot more of him this season, as well as expect to see him break out, because I think with that kind of talent, if he's getting the minutes, it's going to bode well for San Jose. So that's kind of the starting 11 that I've got there. To me, that's a really strong midfield. Defense could probably use a little bit of help. Lopez has to have a good season. Lima, I like Nick Lima. He's a good youngster who's gotten a cup of coffee with the USMNT as well. The center backs, I'm not 100% sure of, but as we talked about earlier, it looks like they're going to be shopping around for some center backs as we speak. So right. Those are kind of my thoughts on the starting 11. What do you think, Nick?
Well, to add to what we're saying about shopping for a center back and the rumors around Oswaldo Alanis, look in his player profile up on Transfer Market, which I think is a pretty decent website for valuing players. Alanis is valued at $2.05 million. So that puts him right on that cusp of DP TAM signing. He's 30 years old, but playing as a center back in the MLS, he could probably extend his career a little bit more. Probably has a lot of good minutes on his legs if he ends up coming to San Jose. They do play that pressing system, but again, it's something he's familiar with from his days with Almeida under Chivas, when Almeida was coaching Chivas. So yeah. He could be that DP signing maybe on a 2-year deal, and we'll just kind of see how it goes. Then again, you bring him in on a big TAM deal and then keep that DP spot open to have the flexibility to put the team over the top. It's kind of funny, like everyone's kind of been forgetting about San Jose lately with the LAFC LA Galaxy rivalry, the entry of Sacramento, how good Seattle has been. People are kind of forgetting that San Jose has really given themselves a lot of roster flexibility and really built a solid young midfield core. So keep on the lookout for San Jose and see what they do. It could come down to how well their most important players play. We talked about the DPs, and we're going to get into our picks for most important player for the team. And this is where Mike and I disagree. I think not only do your DPs have to be that good, but we really need to see Yuil take a step forward and Danny Houston take a step forward. So we talked about Yuil from his playmaking and his ability in the midfield. Also, he has to learn how to mark better. Danny Houston, though, he's got to pick up the scoring. I don't think you're going to see Wondolowski net as many goals as we saw the last season. I think that resurgence for him was a one-time deal. As much as the fans love Wondolowski, as much as a lot of people love watching him play and find the back of the net, Danny Houston's got to step up and have a 10-goal season if we're going to see anything from San Jose this year. Now, Mike, I'm looking at our notes here. You disagree with me.
I do. I've got Chris Wondolowski as that most important player. It is very rare to have a team have their most important player not be a DP. Chris Wondolowski, I think the reason why I go this route is when you look back at last season, in the beginning of the season, Wondolowski was not there and things weren't going well for San Jose. Now, mind you, they had the new coach. They were, Almeida was still working his magic and learning the system, and we're learning his guys. But Wondolowski started to turn it up and had a great second half of the season, so to say, maybe even a little bit more in the second half. Danny Houston is very important. However, I don't think he can get it done on his own. And Wondolowski is that poacher, that number one striker for this team. And if they are going to be successful, Wondolowski is going to have to continue that success that he had last year towards the end of the season when the team started to do well and kind of fight for that last playoff position. Wondolowski needs this big season and to continue to stay up there in order for this team to be successful. If Wondolowski goes back to not scoring any goals like a year and a half ago or so, it's going to be very hard for this team. They're not going to be able to ride Danny Houston to the playoffs. It's not going to happen. So that's why I have Chris Wondolowski as the most important player for San Jose.
So if they lose that offensive output, obviously the floor for them this year is they crash out of the playoffs. They lose all the momentum that they've built over the last year. Maybe they don't get the offseason signings or the transfer signings that they're looking for, and they just go back to kind of that mediocrity, below average San Jose team. But what do you think the ceiling is? If everything goes right, how could their season end up?
Yeah, so if everything goes right, I think they make the playoffs. The Western Conference is so stacked. I'm really excited to watch the Western Conference unfold over the season. I'm an Eastern Conference guy, being from Toronto and being a TFC fan. I usually follow the Eastern Conference more, but this season, I think the Western Conference is the conference to watch. I mean, the teams that are there, the teams that missed last year got so much better. And I think that I'm going to go with probably about a 4 or 5 seed for San Jose if all goes well. So if Wando keeps scoring, they're playing well. They do bring in a good center back to kind of straighten out that back line a little bit more with that young talent, and everybody gets better. Almeida has another great season. My guess is probably a 4 seed and getting a home playoff game in San Jose at Earthquake Stadium.
Well, San Jose starts the season February 29th, hosting Toronto FC. Speaking of, Mike, again, it looks like the league is really putting together an Eastern Conference, Western Conference opening weekend thus far. So we'll see if San Jose can start the season off on that right foot against your beloved Reds there, Mike.
Hopefully not.
No offense to all our San Jose fans.
Exactly.